performance.
We continue our discussion about the president's speech today, and we're really fortunate to have two members of the House, both deeply committed to our nation's security and both with business experience. Joining me now, Sanchez, Democrat from California, and Michael Grimm, Republican from New York. Thank you both for being with us.
Thank you.
The president, I think this sounds really good. He called for a $3 spending cut for every $1 in tax increases. Yet a huge part of the deficit is Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security, and they're only become more onerous. So what specifics did you hear for cuts? Real specifics?
Well, that's the problem. We didn't. And here's the reality. This country does not have a problem of taxing too little. The problem is that we spend too much. And the role of government has expanded exponentially. We need to shrink the size of government, make it more efficient, more effective, but smaller. And the reality of this idea of taxing the rich is going to save our problems is absurd. 75% of all small business owners personalize their taxes. And right now, almost 68% of all jobs are being created by small business owners. So why would we want to tax them and prevent them from creating jobs? It simply doesn't make sense.
Isn't there an issue, though, that at this point, when we're just starting to feel like we're coming out of the slump, that we go back into a double dip if we start hitting up the rich to an extreme, to an extreme point?
There's no question about that. Again, the job creators cannot be punished. We got to stop demonizing the rich and those that create the jobs. And I want to make a very clear point. I do not agree with my colleague that we should be raising taxes on anyone, not the low, middle, not the high. No one should be raising taxes on. We should allow this economy to grow, and we do that by giving incentives for those to create jobs. That's the answer. We have to stop the spending and grow our economy. That's the only equation that is going to get America back on its track.
Well, it always sounds good,
right?
But it rarely works. I mean, that's the reality of the situation.
Flawed?
And President Reagan, we saw that in that time. We saw again with President Clinton a raise in taxes, a bringing down of the debt, a booming economy. We saw a gift of tax cuts from President Bush, and we started going down, and the Republicans continued to spend. And then when President Obama came in, we had to put in a stimulus to keep people working and
Which, by the way,
was
a stimulus of $1 trillion that failed to create any jobs.
Oh, it created lots of jobs in California. Maybe not where you live, but where I live, we're very grateful for that.
I live in America, and it did not create the jobs that it was expected to create. And I want to add one other thing. We cannot even have an honest discussion about our debt crisis if we don't get involved with dealing with the entitlements, the largest driver of our debt and what's bankrupting our entire country. And the president has abdicated his leadership to deal with these entitlements. Paul Ryan has put something on the plate that even Democrats have to admit is real and tangible, and the president hasn't been able to do that.
Do you admit that?
Paul Ryan has put on the plate to shift the burden of finding health insurance for older Americans on an individual basis. The reason we have Medicare is because private health care plans do not want to insure older people because they cost money. That's why the government is in Medicare. And now he wants to push that aside. He wants to give a paltry sum of money and say, go out on the private market.
That's not true.
And find a health care policy. You cannot find a health care policy when you're 73 years old.
What my colleague is saying is that there's a voucher system. That simply is not true. This is not a voucher program. And I want to also emphasize something, because we keep hearing how it's going to hurt seniors. This does not apply to anyone that is 55 or older. 55 or older. So those current seniors will not be affected by this. That's first of all. What it does is it gives an opportunity to preserve Medicare and Medicaid for future generations. That's a real answer. And the truth is the Democrats don't know what to do with that answer.
It doesn't preserve Medicare. It does away with it. It says
Absolutely
go to
not.
a private health care plan. Health care plans don't want to insure
actually
those who have
formulated
more problems.
Like Medicare Part D. Medicare Part D is the only program that actually came in 40% under budget. And that's why it's being modeled after a program that actually works. We're not recreating the wheel here. Paul Ryan did something that is smart. He found something that worked and he emulated it. That's what we're doing here, to give seniors the exact choice that we have in Congress and that every federal employee has. More choice is always better for any of the patients, whether they're seniors or not.
I will just remind those Medicare people who have Part D that when you get at a point in the year and you're paying your premium every month, the government at some point is not helping you pay. There's about a $5,000 cost that comes directly out of your pocket, even though you are paying your premium. So if you think that's a good program, then believe this guy. But he's wrong.
Well, here's
one last question. Hold on. Is there any chance that you two were married in a former life? Because I'm telling you, this sounds like dinner conversation at our table at our house.
You know what I think is important? We're at least having the debate. You know, generations before, for decades, Congress wouldn't have this debate, and that was a big part of the problem.
Yeah, it's a good thing that we're talking about.
That's a big step forward.
And it's a good thing that we're listening to each other. We may not agree, but we're listening to each other.
Representative Sanchez and Grimm, thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.
Well, while they were debating, talking, Elliot's getting the popcorn.